Karsten, hi.
Hi, Peter.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And it's great to be here for this joint presentation between Day as well as Amann Girrbach. So I'm going to ask forgiveness. I had to take German 3 different times. My pronunciation's not great. Maybe we could start out by just confirming if I pronounced your company name properly or if any revisions need to be made.
No, it's perfect, and I have to apologize because I have a very strong German accent. So it will be a nice webinar.
It's all good. It's all good. I've always said that Germany is one of my favorite countries, and I'm not just saying that because you're German, but any chance I have to visit the country to get to know the people, I find that German people are amongst the kindest I've ever encountered, and I think probably have the best sense of humor that I have ever encountered as well.
Wow. Hopefully that was not sarcastic because
Trust
German.
me, it was not.
Okay. Okay, nice. Wonderful.
No, it's really great to be here with you, and thanks very much for the opportunity to take the next 30 minutes to not just get to know you a little bit, but to get to know Amann Girrbach and find out a little bit about what you guys have been up to find out a little bit about your journey in terms of what's happening with regards to your contact centers and your contact center needs, and a little bit about the whole story of scaling. I find as an analyst who's been in the game now for about 20 years that being able to investigate organizations that have taken a very cutting edge approach, not just in terms of their own needs, but being able to leverage good partnerships, which is what we're going to be getting into, is really a breath of fresh air. It's nice to see companies that don't just use the typical playbook and that are willing to think a little bit outside the box, if I can use a cliche, to try and drive the best possible outcomes. So I think a good starting point then, Karsten, would be to find out a little bit about you, what you do, and to talk a little bit about Amann Girrbach as well.
Yeah, sure. So maybe we start with Amann Girrbach and then about my role. Amann Girrbach is a dental workflow company. This means we offer dentists and dental labs solutions from CAD/CAM system to cloud platforms and materials. And our overall vision is to enable every dental professional to produce every restoration digitally. And that's a game changer over the last years. And that's also one of the reasons why I joined Amann Girrbach, because Amann Girrbach is not only doing this in some European countries, but in over 90 countries at this time. And especially in Germany, we have a strong installed base because the company is from Austria, but also expanding to the US massively and to Asia and co. And that's also one of the reasons why I joined Amann Girrbach 2 years before, because I worked as a chief sales officer in a dental startup with roundabout 50 people, and we made all our sales from digital. So we generated all the leads digital wise, and in a lot of markets, it's nothing special, but in the dental market, it was, at least in Germany over the last years. And then they offered me a position as a sales and marketing transformation manager. That sounds fancy, but means more like how can we enable the whole organization to use state-of-the-art tools like RevOps or maybe demand centers and so on.
That's really great, and it doesn't sound overly fancy at all. It sounds very substantial, and it sounds like a very unique challenge. So, congratulations for being able to land in such a role. It sounds like the type of thing that you would probably jump out of bed each morning to just get your teeth right into the role.
Yeah, totally. Especially because before I only looked at the German market,
Yeah.
maybe the Europe market, but now I had the chance to create blueprints for all our indirect markets around the world, and that was a fantastic opportunity for myself.
Well, Carson, I'd like to jump on that for a second
Yeah,
because you and I have been exchanging some emails over the course of the past couple of weeks since we decided that we were going to be partnering on this discussion. And one of the things that struck me was when I always take a look. I'm funny this way, but I look at the base of people's emails to see where they're based, what city they're in. But I noticed for Amann Girrbach, there are a number of different countries that are represented just in terms of some of the different bases of operations that your organization is playing in. Could you speak a little bit about how the company has expanded and what some of these expansion plans entail?
yeah, sure. The most important thing to understand is that we have a strong base in Austria because originally we came from Austria and had some partnerships with a lot of distributors. But that also means that we have different type of markets. So, for example, in Germany, we have a direct market. We have our own sales force, but in most countries like Italy, France, Spain, or Asia, we have country manager with their own teams and they work with distributors. So in the beginning, it was important to understand, okay, what type of archetypes do we want to implement and how can we structure all of these different countries to use different functions to really scale or not only to expand on turnover.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about what what the company was facing just in terms of expanding and developing new business, because I think that's really important. And you took a very, I think, unique approach in the marketplace, and you decided that you were going to try and generate leads, generate revenue using a contact center, a CX or outbound delivery strategy. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about that in terms of why you thought that was the right approach and what your expectations were by leveraging the strategy.
Sure. Mm, In the beginning, it was at the end of 2021. We did
Hmm.
an initial assessment together with BCG, and the question was, okay, how can we scale, and what do we need to do to understand the customer in the best way, to provide the information in the right way, and what tool stack do we need, what functions, and so on. And that was a big project where we had a strategy after that for the next years, but still needed the manpower to create it all types of blueprints for these different archetypes which were identified initially. And that's when we started to work with Project A. It's an operational VC who
Hmm.
has invested in us and worked on different work streams. So, for example, one work stream was, okay, how can we enable our German team with a direct setup? Or how can we enable our indirect markets in the best possible way to work with the distributors? And there were again some different types of distributor settings. And that's why it was also so important to think, okay, not only we want to implement or adjust the CRM system, but look in a holistic way. And that means also in the beginning, like boring customer journey mapping, then identifying, okay, what channels are the best ones and which distributors, for example, do we want to support? Because the initial idea, if you work with distributor, that they are doing all of the sales.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is sometimes in some markets, like the dental market, it's difficult. And if you have some strong, important markets like France, Italy, Spain, and so on, the question pops up, okay, can we support them in any way? And that was the starting point that we said, okay, in our most important distributor markets, we ourselves make a kind of demand gen and lead gen, and then have a process where we enable the distributor. That is also a USP, in my opinion, in regard to different distributors, because most of them is more like, okay, what materials do you need, and please
Hmm.
sell it and provide it.
You talked about some of the, I think you put it, some of the more boring elements like customer journey mapping.
Yeah,
Some of us actually really enjoy that stuff, and I wouldn't say it's a hobby of mine, but if somebody gives me a good customer journey map, I'm all over it. But no, I know exactly what you mean. There are a lot of different inputs and a lot of different elements to the process about trying to figure out the strategy that you've been looking to try and put together. And I think very successfully have done. So, you've talked a little bit about as you've been trying to scale up outside of the German-speaking markets, places like France you referenced, and I think this is a really good point that we could touch on now. Obviously, as you're looking to try and develop these leads, as you're looking to try and develop new business opportunities, Amann Girrbach could have taken the strategy about doing something in-house, doing your own internal contact center, but you chose to maybe look towards working with partners. Now, I think this would be a good point to touch on very quickly. What was the motivator for you as a strategic business person to think we need to go perhaps outside the company, not keep it internal, but find a specialist that might be able to assist in this process?
yeah. There are different reasons. So after we put in the foundation and roll out all kind of processes, tools, and so on, the
Hmm.
question was, okay, how can we now leverage our most important channels? And for example, in Germany, it was easy because we had an inside sales team. But if you don't have an inside sales team, then
Yeah.
you have to ask how fast can you hire new people, and does it always make sense? And in a lot of cases, in my opinion, or in our opinion, it doesn't make sense. For example, if you have only a small team and they have maybe 2 or 3 big events in the year, do you want to
Yeah.
hire a whole team of 10 people? No, it doesn't make sense.
No.
And that's why we started in the beginning, traditional wise with call centers and locally with some sales agencies, but we were not satisfied with the results. And the question pop up, okay, what can we do? We are doing the same like all the other distributors and manufacturer. We are using the same call centers. How can we make a difference? And especially, and that is what I learned in the startup world, how can we learn fast and iterate fast? And that's why we said, okay, we need some ownership. We want to manage our own teams, but on the other hand, we need some kind of platform, I don't know, where we can hire extremely fast talents and work with them.
Yeah, no, and I would absolutely take that point. The startup world can teach a lot of very good lessons in terms of, I think, throwing out established norms and way of doing things. Things don't need to take an exceptional amount of time to onboard an agent and then to train them up and so forth. And your point, I think, was spot on about the fact there might be 2 to 3 big events over the course of the year that you want to be able to hire and ramp up for. But at the same time, do you want to keep that overhead on the books for an extended period? Probably not. So this leads to a really interesting case, Karsten. When we're talking about the way of working with a third party, there are traditional companies out there that I think have some of these established ways of doing business that work quite well, maybe for some clients, but not necessarily for a fast moving organization like your own. What was it that you took at as a means of thinking maybe we want to go for an outsourcer, but one that thinks a little bit differently, one that takes a different approach to the market, which effectively brought you to the Umday experience?
Yeah. So firstly, we talked a lot with our locals, what were their experiences with call centers and sales agencies, and we wanted to have some kind of platform where we can, at least in the beginning, manage everything from headquarter.
Hmm.
Because so we can lessen the burden for all the different teams and tested it and iterated it in the same ways. So this was one requirement. Then secondly, we wanted to we on not wanted but also needed some kind of worldwide talent pool. because the idea was, okay, if we have success in Germany and in Italy and in the US, then after that we want to start different teams in different regions. And that's why it was important to have some kind of provider where we have all these talents on board. And maybe as a third one was, okay, where can we iterate extremely fast? And I love this kind of mindset, just do it. And when we tested the first time Day, we could just do it. So after some days, we had a campaign with some talents and we saw results. And then we could iterate and learn from it.
Yeah, and it was interesting because a couple of days ago, just for the sake of the audience, we had a chat. I was getting some background from you about the experience that you'd had with Day, and you made a point that really stuck out to me, was that with maybe a traditional, oh no, you made many points that stuck out, but this one really, really, it was like a light bulb over my head. And it was that with maybe an in-house or a traditional outsourcer, the onboarding and the training could take perhaps up to like maybe 8-9 weeks, but in the case of Day, we were talking perhaps 8-9 days. and
Right.
and I think that is a fantastic validation about this way of working, because at the end of the day, it's not like 25 years ago or even 10 years ago, when organizations like Amann Girrbach need to get into the market and to start generating leads. This is something that needs to be done in post haste. It's not something that you can really wait around on. And having this capacity to move forward and to move quickly, like with the Day solution, truly I think provides you with a competitive advantage.
Totally agreed. And I want to give one or two examples. Let's
Please.
assume you want to test cold calling. And nowadays, a lot of people are telling you in some countries like Germany, our cold calling is not state of the art, it's super expensive, don't do that.
Yeah.
But if you have an approach where you can onboard some talents in some days and iterate it every day, and you can see the results, it's not a big of a discussion because you can prove it with actions. And the same is in the startup world. For example, if you are a small team, sales lead by the founders, then one day you have to ask yourself, okay, should I hire the first SDR or the first SDRs? Or what can I do? And I like the idea to test it. And after 1 week or 2 weeks, I know so much more because of a call power uh, of 400 calls or more. It depends on my budget, but with 2 or 3K, I can already do a lot.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And I think that what we're talking there is stretching the dollar, or in this case the euro, quite a substantial amount. And let's be perfectly frank, we know from the research we're doing at Ryan Strategic Advisory that the budgets that organizations in general have to do this type of work are either staying flat or they even might be shrinking going into 2024. So being able to have access to that level of efficiency and quality flexibility at a in almost a commercial mechanism that's going to benefit yourself is even that much more of, I think, a plus in terms of the structure that you've been able to develop with Umday.
Yeah, and it gives you the possibility to make more mistakes, honestly. For
Hmm.
example, in one of our first pilots with Hyundai, we made a preparation in some days and then started. And the first leads, we thought, oh my God, we we get so many leads, but the lead quality was totally shit. uh,
No,
but
cool.
but even so, after 10 days, we have sold 1 mil, and with 1 mil, the whole campaign was profitable. And that was a game changer in our thinking because we said, okay, let's always start and iterate not on a monthly base but on a daily base.
Okay, wow. Well, I mean, look, those are not small numbers. I mean, that's really quite so 10 days and 1 million. Is did I hear that correctly?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
no, sorry. 20K. So in
20.
average, when we sell 1 mil, it's around about 20K. Maybe in some
Oh, okay.
markets with all the equipment, it's around 100K, not 1 million,
Got
sorry.
it. Okay,
But
all right, cool. No, that's all right.
but even so, normally you need maybe 6 or more months of a sales cycle, and because of the number of calls, that we were lucky. But after that, we tested different setups like event promotions, like reactivating and winning back lost customer, and
Yeah.
we always learned it, and then we get the results much faster and not luckily anymore.
But I think that one of the things that strikes me in terms of what you've just talked about, you did talk about learning from mistakes, and this is going to happen at the outset of any campaign, but the ability to take those lessons on and to be able to really turn them into gold going forward, I think is crucial. And that's something that obviously you've been able to manage. And I love what you were saying about having that flexibility to be able to do things like promotions or perhaps customers that might have lapsed or you might have that might have moved on and to bring them back, because that really is, I think, an amazing skill for an organization and their agents to bring to the table.
Yeah, and I myself was totally skeptical in the beginning if we can do this kind of jobs with sales freelancers, which we have trained
Yeah.
only for 1 or 2 days. And
Hmm.
I remember one meeting with our CEO, with our old CEO, who told me, Carsten, please, if you do that campaign, ensure that we don't have some kind of reputation risks. Because it sounds great, but the reputation risk is much bigger. And
Yeah.
what we learned is that we find easy mitigations. So, for example, if you set up a new campaign in the first days, it's more time consuming. But then we ask different people from our sales departments, hey, can you please listen to the recordings, maybe 30 minutes a day to mitigate this reputation risk. And that's how we were much more confident after 1 week and also get some feedback, some learnings. And maybe the most important thing is we grow as a team and we not
Hmm.
only hired some freelancers, but we built a sales team for the long run. And
Hmm.
that's totally important to understand the difference between building a sales team with freelancer versus, I don't know, hire a call center or something like that, where you never know, okay, what are these people exactly doing? It's difficult.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to our chat from a couple of days ago because that's something I did want to explore with you in the last few minutes we've got. You've mentioned the term freelancer here, and I know that that's an expression for some people that might be a little bit that they might question and so forth. But you've had such a good experience, and when you talked to me about the ability of building that relationship with the freelancers and making them feel part of what Amann Girrbach is doing. Maybe talk a little bit about how you were able to incorporate that freelance element into feeling that they were truly contributing and being part of the team.
Yeah. Um, so the first step should be also, how do you manage your own sales teams and then
Yeah.
manage this team in the same way. So you set up weekly sales calls where you give them some kind of sparring and show them the numbers. It's super important to be extremely transparent so that everything you are doing, explain it to them. And give them some kind of talent manager, and it don't have to be one person who manage all these stuff. No, but maybe one sales guy who's already working in headquarter or in the local wise, maybe the country manager who can
Hmm.
listen to the talent for 30 minutes each day, and that's enough. Not in the first 2 weeks, but later on, and yeah, that's super important. Always find easy solutions so that there's no single point of failure. For
Yeah.
example, It can be a game changer if you implement a HubSpot a CRM system or any other CRM system which is easy to use, but you don't need to. So yeah, that's the obvious things. Oh, and never underestimate the call power of your team, because you can hire so fast new people, and for example, if you have 10 people, at least 400 calls per day is possible. That's 2K per week, and that's huge in some B2B markets. And even if you do all this perfectly, then you should anticipate a high fluctuation quote in comparison to in-house. Because some talents are not the right ones, even if you have done a wonderful job with job interviews, and you should always do maybe 15-minute job interviews with the talents to understand, are these the right persons for the right campaign? But even then, anticipate that after the onboarding, after the first days, especially in more complicated campaigns like winning back customer, for some it is not the right way, but that's okay, and you can learn and can do the next onboarding at the end of the week.
Cool. Okay. Well, look, Karsten, we've got literally about 2 minutes to go in the webinar, and I want to just say thank you. This has been a fascinating discussion. Really, really enjoy hearing the story and hearing the success. So, if you were to impart any key lessons learned up to this point about what you've been able to manage with Yoomday for anybody listening that might be seeking a provider or seeking the same business model, what would you counsel them to be thinking about moving forward?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What are the key lessons learned from the relationship that you've had with Yoomday and that you would counsel anybody to think about moving forward if they were in a similar position to you?
Yeah. Okay, that gave me a little bit of time to think about it, because the most important thing is, if you start, please start with a person who has sales experience themselves, because it's super difficult in the beginning to understand, are the results good or not good enough. And if you have someone with a sales background, this person can teach the talents and can identify who are the right ones. And this don't have to be full time, but that's important. The second one, to to ask in your own organization, okay, what is expectation, and then mitigate this expectation management, especially like obvious things or with reputation risk. You can mitigate it. It's easy. Then ask yourself, okay, how can we start small and iterate fast? So, for example, it was a wonderful experience that we started with event invitations, because it was very straightforward, it was easy to learn. And then after that, we started with a bigger team regarding winning back the customers. And so we learned from each use case to the next one. So start with a small one, and if you're not sure and the pressure is high, and it's always high, then start maybe with an A/B testing. So you make it like always with your call center or your in-house team, and make an A/B test with a Yoomday team, and then you can learn from it. And this one is important. If you are thinking about the future and you have a strong in-house team, maybe they fear, oh my God, if I support the other team, then I will be fired next week because they are much more cost efficient. That's not the case, or it should be not the case, because we know, especially in Germany, we can't hire so fast, so good people. But if we can use the capacity of our people in sales to train and to support the Hyundai team, then we have two strong teams, for example, in the direct market, where we can expand much faster. And
That's great. Oh, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No. I was only looking to the time and thought, oh my God.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, as we say in Canada, Karsten.
Ah,
So I really want to say a big thank you. We are at the bottom of the hour, and a great thanks to Yumde for helping organize this wonderful discussion.
sure. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Yumde. Thank you all, guys.